everyone, and welcome to another episode of 2D prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas. In the last episode, we built ourselves the character, the actual asset, the character. And it was very simplistic to do. We added in an image, and to that image we added in a 2D rigid body that allows Unity's 2D physics engine to react upon that body itself. We also added in several different colliders, and those colliders define the character's hitbox and allow the character to interact with other 2D colliders in the scene. So for example, our character can stand on top of our platforms, which is really, really great. That's what we're trying to do. In this episode, guys, I'd like to take a look at building some of the animation for this character. We're going to take a look at the idle and the walking animation. And then in the next episode, we're going to take a look at adding the code to actually be able to make the character walk. All right, so let's get started. Adding animation to a character is really rather simplistic. Basically, you have to have yourself your character animation sheet, which I've got right here. It's my 2D Explorer. Hopefully, you guys got one of your own, either the 2D Explorer or maybe you've got yourself something you've downloaded. Basically, what you have to know is where each of the animations start and where they end. So, for example, in my case, I have 3 separate animations within my character sprite sheet. I've got an idle that goes from 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've got a run that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got a jump that's 1, 2, 3. Today we're going to take a look at the idle and the run. So to add an animation to an existing character is very, very simplistic in 2D. Basically what you have to do is click and highlight. I'm going to actually only click and highlight the first, well, the 4 actually. All 4. So the first 4 frames. And once they're clicked and highlighted, I'm going to drag and drop them on the character itself. Now watch what happens. Boom. An additional window opens. Now this additional window is asking me, saying, hey, what are you doing here? You're adding something to me and I don't know what it is. I think it's an animation. You can see it's being saved as type anim. So what I'm going to do, and I got this in the wrong spot, I wanted it somewhere else, but whatever. I'm going to give this thing a brand new name. And I'm going to call this thing here, let's call it player, spelled properly, player idle, because this is my idle animation, and I'm going to save it. When I do, unfortunately, it's going to show up right here. There's a couple of things that showed up inside of here, and I'm going to move these right here. This character, this thing called character, and this player idle. I'm going to take both of those, and I'm going to add them to my animation folder. If I had been smart in doing this properly, what I would have done is made sure I clicked on animation before I actually did that. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so animation. Inside of my animation folder now, I've got something called character and I've got something called player idle. Let's take a look at how that actually affected our character asset. I'm going to click on him right here. If we take a look, we scroll all the way down. On the bottom now, underneath everything else we added on the last episode, we've got a new thing called Animator, a new node called Animator. And basically it says controller and it says character. That is this right here. This is called an animation controller is what this is. The animation controller, watch what happens if I double click on it. It's going to open up. If you don't already have it, it's going to open up a window. I already had it in place here, tabbed in. It's going to open up the Animator window. The Animator window is the location where you're going to build basically a map of what goes into what, meaning can my player go from idle to run to jump to walk, and how it goes there and what causes it to switch. This is the Mechanim, basically the Mechanim concept, and it's used in a lot of different software packages, not just Unity. There's a lot of different ones that actually use this similar idea where the animator is the one who's controlling what switches and how. Basically, what I'm going to do is currently I have an idle. Now watch what that means actually. Let's take a look right now. Let's go back to my scene. I'm going to make sure maximize on play is on. And watch what happens when I hit play. When I hit play, boom, my character comes in and he has got some motion. Now he didn't have any motion previously and he doesn't have a great motion going on there. But he's got some motion and that is my idle. Alright, that is my idle. If we go back to this screen here and we take a look at this, this is basically saying it's orange, and the orange node, player idle, is the first thing, it's the default motion that the character is going to have on him. He's got this default animation on him. Player idle is the actual frames that we dragged and dropped onto character. It contains all 3 of those frames, or sorry, all 4 of those frames, and it's scrolling through them one after the other. And currently, if we take a look, if I click on it, I take a look, it's got loop time, which means it's a looped pose. It's looped, 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 and means it's going to play over and over and over again. Okay, so that's what I want to happen with my idle. My idle is a loop, meaning it's not just something that plays once and stops. It's playing over and over and over again. It restarts, restarts, restarts. Okay, so we've got ourselves a loop in there. Now we've got ourselves a couple of problems. That animation, let's take a look at it again, is very, very fast. Very, very fast. Now, that is because I actually only included 4 frames. I didn't want that. I should have included many more frames than I actually did. You can add in as many as you want, and it's going to go through and scroll through each one of those frames. All right, with so few frames, I'm going to have to change this motion down. Let's slow it down, and let's try it at 25% speed. 25% speed. Let's see how that looks. That's not bad. It's fine. I'm going to leave it at 25% speed for the remainder of this episode anyway. And I'll tweak it later on and see if I like it. But right now, at least, the character's not like jerking up and down. Okay? It's going through a nice slow motion. It's not great animation, and I'm not claiming it is. Like I said, I did it all in 4 frames. Take your time, guys. Make yourself some good animation so your game looks good. All right, that is my idle. Great. The next thing I want to do is I want to take a look at the run. If I want to add a run to this character, I can do it really, really simply. I'm going to go back to my sprites. I'm going to highlight the run in exactly the same way. This time I'm going to leave the last frame out because the last frame is actually a repeat of the first frame, and I don't want to use it, so I'm just going to grab these 4, and I'm going to drag them, and I'm going to drop them on character. Once again, I've got a window saying, "Oh, what is that?" And I'm going to say this is called player run. And when I do so, boom, you can see it shows up right here in this location. All right? This time it's grayed out though. This time it's grayed out, and that means it is not the default. So default means when it's orange, whichever one is orange means this is what I want you to play whenever I start. This is what my default state is. I start off in this state. We can go between other states if we want to by adding what's called a transition, and we're going to do that in 1 second. So right now, if I want to check out the player run, let's say I wanted this one here to be default instead. Whenever the character comes in, he's running. I can simply click on it to make sure it's highlighted. I can right-click, and I can say set as layer default. Boom. And when I do, it becomes orange. Now, watch what happens when I hit play. This guy goes in. He's running like hell. Oh my God, he's running so fast. That's a little too quick. So once again, what we're going to do, guys, we're going to go in here. We're going to change this. We're going to make sure, first of all, as you can see, it looped. So if I go into here, where is it? Right here. I'm going to drag this over again. If I go into here and I take a look at player run, you can see it's looping, so that's what I like. And there's no cycle offset, and that's because it's going all the way around through the entire thing. That's great. If I go back to the character himself right here, and I look at player run and click on it, let's slow this to, let's say 0.5. This is just a guess. Just a guess. That's not so bad. That's not so bad as far as the run is concerned. And again, we can tweak that once we've got our motion in place, once this character can actually move forward or backward with keystrokes. So for now, I'm going to leave it like that. You can see that his current state now, because I went back and I reset his run as the default state, he is currently running all the time. And that's what we wanted to do. All right, let me stop that. Now, we're going to take a look at transitioning between these 2 states. Transitioning between 2 states is rather simple. It's really simple using Mechanim anyway. So first thing I want to do is choose which one is my default state. I'm going to actually go back and choose idle as my default state, meaning when the character is doing nothing at all, I want it to go back into this idle animation and stay there until I actually do something. Transitioning from one state to the other is done through different parameters that are offered to these states. Now let me show you what that means. So I'm going to click on idle. I'm going to right click on it and make this little window come up, and I'm going to say make transition. And I'm going to drag and I'm going to drop it right there. And then I'm going to select run, the player run. I'm going to right click, make transition, and drag it over there. So you can see that in doing so, I've got arrows that go back and forth. And basically what I want to do is I want to define parameters that say whenever something happens, go from this state to this state. And whenever something happens, go from this state to this state. In order to do that, I have to set up certain parameters, like I've been saying over and over again. To do so, right over here, on this window on the side, you can click the plus sign. Now you've got a couple of different options: float, integer, bool, and trigger. Float is any number, 1.25 or whatever you want. Integer is any whole number. A bool is a true or a false. And lastly, trigger. A trigger is an interesting one because what happens with the trigger is it operates and it stays in that state. So unlike a bool where it goes true, where you say true and then it'll stay true until you say false, a trigger will go, if you make a trigger true, it goes trigger once, it says true, and then it goes false again. So it's always ready to go. It's kind of like a burst. Okay? Think of it like that. What we want to do to transfer from player idle to player run is we want to make a float. I'm going to click on float. And I'm going to call this speed. Now it's going to be very important that you guys remember this name, speed. Call it something that you can remember. What we're going to basically do is we're going to say, given speed, whenever speed is a given value, so let's say the character speed goes from 0 to, let's say, I don't know, let's say 0.1 for now, or 0.01. Whenever speed, you can see it took this parameter, and all I basically did is I clicked on here, I clicked on the transition itself. Underneath here, well, let's look at this side because I already clicked it. Underneath here, there's an empty list, and when you click the plus sign, boop, it ends up like that. Okay, it's going to fill in this condition. There's going to be a drop-down menu here, and it's going to give you an option of any of the parameters you currently have available. We only have speed. So whenever our speed, so meaning the character's speed, he's moving in some direction, is greater than, and you can choose greater than or less than here, whenever it's greater than, and I'm going to say decimal 0.001, I might as well make it really small, that's too small, decimal 0.1, whenever his speed is greater than decimal 0.1, I want him to go from idle to running. So he's basically going to move from idle to running whenever this parameter is greater than decimal 1. And we're going to take a look at how we change that parameter in code later on, okay, in a future episode. In this episode, we're just doing this map. Now, the other thing we want to do is we want to go from player run, so the player's going to be idling. He starts to speed up. He's moving somewhere, and as he speeds up, it's going to transfer along this transition here into this animation where it's going to loop as long as this condition has been passed and as long as we don't reach this condition. In this condition, I'm going to say plus speed is less than decimal 0.1. So if our speed is less than decimal 0.1, it's going to go back to idle. So if he starts to speed up, he's going to start to run. If he starts to slow down, he's going to go back to idle. That's basically what this is. We are creating a roadmap, an animation roadmap. All right, that's basically what we're doing here, creating an animation roadmap. And the animator is the one who's in charge of this. That's what's really interesting, because the animator has gone through and he's made great efforts in making his animation look the way he wants it to look. And now he's going to tell the coder, he's going to say, listen, the animation's set up the way I like it. I built you this roadmap, and all you have to do now is pass in these parameters, and everything is going to work the way I have designed it to look. That's really, really great. That's a really great move as far as the animators are concerned. I worked at a studio before. We didn't actually have this, where basically as an animator, I made my animation and I passed my animations off to a coder, and the coder tried to put them together the way he thought they should work. And that didn't work out well. There was a lot of back and forth and no, you're doing it wrong, and it just didn't work out well. This puts a lot of power in the hands of the artist, and because the artist really knows how he wants the different things to look. The coder is still in charge of when everything happens, because he's the one who passes in, he or she, sorry, is the one who passes in these different parameters and affects when these things occur, but the animator or the artist is in charge of how they look when they occur, and that is awesome. There's a couple more things we're going to look at right now. Right here, if we take a look at this, this shows how they go from one location to the next, how it actually moves transitions from one state to the other. And I usually try and make these nice and small. You can have a longer transition if you'd like to. A longer transition will mean that it'll like transition slowly, so you can kind of blend them into a nice smooth blend rather than having them happen all at once. Especially in 2D, I like to scrunch this down to really, really small, so it's a switch. The character's idle and then he's not. He's idle then he's not. He's running and then he's not running. I like to do that. And I'm going to do it for both right now. I'm just going to squash them down like this. Squish. So they're really small. And we can go through and we can adjust that a little bit later on. And these are all interruptible. So basically that means that at any point when our speed is less than 0.01, it's going to switch over. That's what that basically means. And you can drag this, like I can drag this right to the front if I want, like that. You know, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. That is my transitions, okay? And if we want to test it, let's get rid of maximize on play for a minute. All we have to do is, now with maximize on play turned off, hit play. Oh, shoot. Make sure scene is up. Taking a look at this, we can see that the character is moving as we expected. Back to my animator. I can adjust this value here. So let's make this into 0.2. Now watch what happens to the character. 0.2. You can see now that character is running. All right. If I put this back to 0, now the character is idle. Okay. Did you see him switch? Watch right here. I'm going to do it one more time. So with it playing, it's on 0. The character's idling, and I'm going to make this into 0.03. Boom, our character is running, and when I'm done, back to 0. All right, that is basically how that works. That is basically the concept behind the animation tools within Unity. They're extremely powerful, and they give a lot of power to the animator as well as a lot of power to the coder. That allows them to work hand in hand together. Okay, in the next episode, we're going to take a look at writing the code to make sure our character can move back and forth. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I think we're probably around 15 or 20 minutes again. We're getting kind of long. I want to make sure we're not too long. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. I don't care. Give me a thumbs down if you want to. I am doing this to help you guys out. And if I'm not helping you, then you have to let me know. All right? Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or you'd like to say anything. Let me know down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. I love answering your questions. All right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below. And if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.